This is Wrestling for the Faith.
Wrestling for the Faith.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wrestling for the Faith. I'm Casey Cage.
And I'm Chad Lell. Just Chad today.
Oh, just Chad. We're not not in the mood to hulk up and be Gunner or Ryker or Shatter or Ryker, whatever. Gunner, Shatter.
Aliases I have, yeah.
The man of 1,000 gimmicks. Not really. Actually, that's not near as bad as a lot of guys, you know?
No. Some of them, yeah. Going and on and on. It's not like I chose to change my name half the time. I was kind of forced to. So
right. Well, and I mean, really, like we've talked about it, if you're going to play in another movie, or if you're, went from one movie set to another, and I mean, most likely, unless you're James Bond, your name's going to change, so
yeah.
Who cares?
Right. Yeah, just roll it. Who cares? It pays the bills, brother.
Yeah.
I don't care.
The way the internet is now, somebody can look up Gunner and know that you were Phil Shatter and Jaxson Ryker and all of them at the same time. So, it really don't matter. Everybody's, oh, yeah, that's that guy.
Yeah, and according to matter of fact, while we're on the subject of name changes, I get a Facebook thing last night from Jason Justice, our good brother Jason.
Yeah.
And it says, and here's the headline for the Facebook: "These wrestlers ruined their career in a matter of seconds." And I was on that list. Apparently I ruined my career, Casey. So I found it funny. I watched about 10 seconds of it, and it says that because of my tweet, I ruined my career. So, but I will say this. After the tweet, I was employed for another year and a half. Made more money than I ever made in my life. So apparently my career ruined, bro. Bought a house.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I just thought it was funny. Jason sent me that. But he also sent me Matthew 5:11. "You are blessed when they insult you and persecute you and falsely say every kind of evil against you because of me."
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, but God. Can't we always say that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Speaking of which, I was wanting to start off today with some verses, man. I've been like all last week, I sat on these few verses in Galatians chapter 5. And reading it from the Passion Translation it's just like explosiveness, the way it words it. So I wanted to read it so that everybody can hear it. Okay, for all of those Nazis out there, no, this is not a word for word translation.
Paraphrase.
This is not a for the KJV Nazis out there.
Yeah.
But anyway,
love it.
I heard I better leave that alone. Anyway, Galatians chapter 5, beginning at verse 16. It says, "Let me emphasize this. As you yield to the dynamic life and power of the Holy Spirit, you will abandon the cravings of your self-life. When your self-life craves the things that offend the Holy Spirit, you hinder him from living free within you. And the Holy Spirit's intense cravings hinder your self-life from dominating you. So then, the two incompatible and conflicting forces within you are your self-life of the flesh and the new creation life of the Spirit." Verse 18, "But when you yield to the life of the Spirit, you will no longer be living under the law, but soaring above it."
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And then it goes into talking about the acts of the flesh versus the acts of the Spirit, or the fruit of the Spirit. But man, I sat on that like all week last week, and I love that part, how it talks about when you submit to the leadership of the Holy Spirit. And we talked about it, at KFG this past Sunday. When you submit to the leadership of the Holy Spirit, you're soaring above the law. You're not bound by the law, and that's what a lot of people don't understand about grace is it's not a license to sin, and you don't have to worry about it being a license to sin, because when you're being led by the Holy Spirit, as you should, all of us new creation believers should be being led in every decision by the Holy Spirit. He's not going to lead us into anything that's wrong. He's not going to lead us into anything that is breaking the law of God.
Right. Yeah, man. It's just like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, turning that volume of the world down that tells you do this, do that. This is true. And turning that down and turning the Holy Spirit volume up and knowing within your heart, letting the Spirit lead you and guide you and living by the word, man, soaring above all that. Right.
Yeah.
It's good.
That is
good, man.
It is. I love it. All right. Speaking of KFG, I want to let everybody know that for the time being, we have combined our regular KFG and vertical youth services at the Boys and Girls Club. That's still going to be Sunday evenings, but we're going to just have both. We're going to combine them at 5 p.m. on Sunday evening. So no more 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. We're just coming together at one time at 5 p.m. on Sunday evenings at the Boys and Girls Club in Benton. So everyone's welcome to come join us if you're in the area and would like to. Today's topic, I believe, is going to be another popular one. I know that you have told me that this is some of the most fun that you have had in your career. We are talking about Ryker and Elias.
There we go. It was a lot of fun, man. It's funny how it come together too. So we'll discuss that. I'm excited.
Well, and so, we got several questions, but and folks, we're going to try to get through these, eventually. We're not going to be able to get through every one of them on the podcast every week that you send in, but we're going to try to get through, some here and there as we go. So if, just keep listening. If your question has not been answered, keep listening and I'm sure we'll eventually get to it. But one of those questions was, and we'll just tie it into this episode. When you were with Elias, were you meant to sing or just be like his bodyguard?
No, we were we had pitched some ideas of trying to break the Jaxson Ryker, what's the word, stoic character a little bit, and let me start doing some stuff where I was, randomly singing, and he'd be like, whoa, bro, like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. But they never let us do that for some reason. So at the time, it was a way to introduce me back into the mix of being the bodyguard or the roadie or whatever we wanted to call it. But we did have some ideas that we were trying to pitch. It just, for some reason, they never latched onto it because I thought it would have been great. I thought it'd been great to have this like comedy side of me, but he's serious and was like, what are you doing, kind of thing. But they never ran with it.
Hey, being a roadie is not a bad job. I mean, a buddy of ours, he made a lot of money in a Hall of Fame career. The road dog. He started out being the roadie of Jeff Jarrett. So hey, that's a great career.
He sure did. Oh man, what a good man too, bro. Yeah. So we tried to pitch a couple of different ideas, but just they finally opened up and allowed me to have some kind of character and kind of express emotions more than just being the stoic guy. But
right.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so we talked last week about the Forgotten Sons. The tweet happens. You guys are taken off TV. Eventually, the Forgotten Sons group is disbanded. And so from June until December, are you sitting at home or are you still going to the building? Or, are you showing up to events or are they telling you, hey, just sit at the house until we call you?
No, man, we were sitting at the house. I mean, we had a few phone conversations with Mark Carano at the time, Bruce Pritchard at the time, because the plans were to keep the Forgotten Sons together. Mm-hmm. They didn't instantly go, oh, you tweeted this, we're breaking you guys apart. It was like, we're going to take you off the TV for a little bit, let the storm settle. And so the whole time, all three of us were sitting at home. And, up until probably, I guess, maybe November is when we realized that they're not going to bring the Forgotten Sons back together because they were like pitching a few little ideas of how to bring us back in. But then all of a sudden it was like they just kiboshed it. I don't know what happened there, man. But yeah, there was no going to the arenas. There was no TV. I think Blake and Cutler, because at that time they both lived in Florida still. Somewhere in that season where we were sitting at home, I know they went to the arena one time in Orlando or whatever, had a meeting with Carano about some things. Don't know what happened, with that situation, but all I know is come November, it was like, we're going to do some different things. And I didn't know what they were going to do with me. All I knew is I had pitched some ideas on my own to Elias. Him and I had talked back and forth, and then shot some different ideas to the office about, what if I came in as like Elias's roadie or something, you know what I mean? So that's really where we were. I was just sitting home from June to December, like a long extended vacation.
Right. Well, so that was my next question. How was your relationship with Elias before you guys bonded on TV? How long have you known each other? What was your relationship like before you guys started working together on TV?
We had obviously, passed each other here and there. It was, I had his number, he had my number. One of those things where we were talking every day like we usually do.
Yeah.
But we were always cool with one another, man. And he was always really easy because, like, Elias has got a good mind with characters and stuff like that. So there was times I'd reach out to him and ask him about some ideas and stuff like that. But it wasn't, like I said, it was a passing in the gym in Orlando when I lived there. Hey, man, how you doing kind of thing. But never like, we were hanging out or anything. But always approachable, just a good guy.
Right. So you guys start pitching the ideas to the office about you coming back with Elias. So when did they tell you, hey, we're gonna run with this?
Dude, funny because I guess it was December. I'm sitting at home on a Saturday night. It's 11 p.m. and I'm just chilling on the couch, and I get a text from WWE Travel, 11 o'clock at night, Saturday night. Hey, they're flying you into Raw for Monday. Your flight will be your flight will be on Sunday. So the next day at like whatever, 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, what am I doing? I need to know what to bring and all this stuff. So, I have a 12-hour window. Flew into Raw. We were in Orlando, I believe. Yeah, Orlando. Get there. And for a couple weeks, there was ideas bouncing back and forth of putting me with the, what was that team's name that came out there with Ali? Remember those guys? You remember the name of that group?
Retribution? Yeah,
Retribution. Because Ali had come up to me there at TV that first week I got back and said, hey, I think your plans are bring you, in with Retribution and kind of do some stuff with us. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever, man, whatever gets me back in the mix. So the whole Elias thing didn't come into play because I sat at TV. I came in for a month, maybe. I'm trying to think when Elias and I debuted together. I want to say January of 2020.
I think it was December, about mid second or third week of December, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so I did sit for probably 2 or 3 weeks because it was like the end of November, beginning of December when I flew back into Raw. So it was 2 or 3 weeks where I was just in limbo, sitting in the locker room going, what's going on? Really no word, the Retribution thing. And then I came in one week and it was like, all right, what we're going to do is put you with Elias. And then Elias and I started connecting and talking. And I just was kind of his security guy because people had kept interfering in his music and all of that stuff. So their idea was to introduce me back into that mix.
Right.
So it's funny. I'm glad the Retribution thing didn't happen because, some of those guys went on to do some different stuff, but it was just kind of, man, it kind of fizzled out after a while, and I was like, well, that would have been a bad position for me. So once again, the Lord's hand was working in many different ways on that.
Right. So as you come back, we've talked about it. There were some coworkers who, jumped on you about the tweet and everything. Is anybody coming up and mentioning it to you? Anybody coming to you and griping or apologizing or, saying, hey, I know where you're coming from, but I just don't believe that you should have been talking about it at that moment? Or is anything being said?
Well, I'll go ahead and say it because I don't really care. But when it all happened, one of the guys who came out and just kind of blasted was Kevin Owens. Mm-hmm. And I instantly knew that, Blake and Kevin were close. They had talked and stuff like that. I text Blake and say, dude, do me a favor. Ask Kevin if I could have his number. So lo and behold, Kevin said, yeah, sure. So Kevin and I actually talked one night right after this happened for probably 30 minutes. basically agreed to disagree. But Kevin even come out and said, dude, I've said crazy stuff in my career. So he was one of them, and we had already talked. But the only other one that come up and really talked to me was Ali, because Ali, I think, had said something about the tweet when it had all happened. And he had come up to me that night at the arena and respectfully, man, was like, hey, dude, we all got our own opinions. And I just want to apologize that I had said anything on Twitter about it. I should have just come to you man to man. I was like, dude, that's completely okay. I was like, I don't hold beef or grudges. And, another one was that he and I talked on the phone was Xavier Woods, because we've known each other since, 2006. Yeah. And just kind of, put it under the table and kind of iron things out. But any of the other ones who were tough guys, quote unquote, with my fingers here on Twitter, they didn't have anything to say. It was like, oh, hey man, good to see you. And just, listen, I'm whatever, the fake wrestling business. We know how it is, hey, come here. Let me give you a hug. I'm going to stick this knife in your back. But, but those guys did, man. And it's not like Kevin and I were buddies and went out to dinner together. But it was a conversation we had, and at least, he was willing to talk to me.
And that's the big thing in today's society that I wish that people could learn. Just because we might disagree on beliefs or politics or whatever, don't mean that we have to hate each other.
Right.
That's what society says that we've got to do. If you disagree with anything that I believe, then you hate me. And, why can't more people be like Kevin and be like Ali and, sit down and talk? And if you agree to disagree, that's fine. Hey, I respect your opinion. We can still work together. We'll still have fun. We can still make money together. No big deal.
Mm-hmm. That's it, man. Just man up. Talk to the guy. There was one person in particular that the night the tweet went out, instead of getting on Twitter like all the other, trolls, this person actually texted me, said, hey, I don't understand why you would post that. But, I think it's probably the bad time to do so. And I respectfully said, man, I disagree. I've posted stuff like this before. I didn't say anything wrong. So, that person, I appreciate just reaching out to me that night instead of just getting on Twitter and going, oh, blah, blah, blah. Let's throw fuel in the fire so people continue to, threaten your family and threaten your career. That's the things that really got me was, it would probably fizzled out if it wasn't been for the, these superstars who I worked with, adding fuel to the fire on Twitter because they wanted people to go, oh, we praise you because you don't agree with Gunner.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So you show up in December of 2020, standing with Elias. Have they given you guys any kind of future green lights, or just said, hey, let's throw you guys on TV with this and let's see what happens?
No, it was just throw you on TV, see what happens, see how you guys look together. Basically, I think it was a trial run. You're going to kind of be Elias's little hitman. If somebody kind of tries to interfere, you're there to bounce them around, basically. But it was definitely, I think, a trial run. And I don't even think they knew what they wanted to do with it until maybe Vince saw me and said, man, that's a big guy. Because we had me coming out in black jeans and like a black tight shirt and a pair of boots. And then Vince was like, no, I want you to take your shirt off. And of course, he's a body guy. He always has been. And I was like, good, because I'm why not show it off?
Feel restricted anyway.
Yeah. And then it kind of progressed as we talk about it. I was wrestling in jeans. I had to get these special jeans made from the lady who makes my jacket. They're like stretchy material. Mm-hmm. Because, once again, Coach mentioned that. How do you get legs like that? Well, jeans are hard to confine. My legs are not good with jeans. I've ripped many pair. But anyway, yeah. So, and then Vince was like, I don't want you in jeans anymore. Have you ever wore trunks? So apparently Vince had never watched me wrestle before. and I say, well, yes, I have trunks all over the place. So it's like, okay, we want you in gear. When it's time to wrestle, we want you in gear. So we slowly progressed from this like stoic hitman that I was used to being, to progressing into some character, into gear, which I loved. I mean, we can talk about some of the vignettes Elias and I did where I was getting a chance to have a comedy side. So it was great.
Yeah. So now you are originally, I believe, maybe on the first episode of Raw that you guys are together. Truth comes out. I don't see. It would be very hard to work with that guy and not break.
Oh yeah, dude, he was, yes.
But anyway, Truth comes out and interrupts, telling you guys that he didn't mean to interrupt the last segment that he interrupted. And then the 24/7 guys hit the ring and you destroy some of them, show the big, once again, big henchman kind of deal. And, you guys are off to the races. When did you guys progress into like the tag team side of things?
It had to be maybe it's a couple months in, man. So maybe February or so, we were already starting to do like some tag matches where it might even have been sooner. Like we were doing some stuff where he and I would be out at the ringside with him. He would be working like Lucha House Party or one of those guys or something, And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, we're going to put you and Elias against two of the members of Lucha House Party. So it was pretty quick. Within a few months, I know we started working tag matches. Not, I was still in jeans and stuff like that at that time, jeans and shirtless. They'd have me doing stuff where, Hardy would come out there and interfere with Elias. And then the next week I would work Jeff, or the next week I would work Metalik from Lucha House Party. But then we started doing some tag matches. So it wasn't long after, because him and I were already starting to come up with, hey man, some different ideas that we can do. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't probably a couple months.
Yeah. So you guys' first big thing is with Shane McMahon in this big story that he's doing against Braun Strowman. And of course, we know Strowman was pushed as a beast. And, you guys got to be feeling good, because anytime you're slated with a McMahon, that means something.
It does. And we were doing really funny, like cool promos with Shane, man. And Shane's just super laid back, completely opposite than his father. Now, Vince may have been laid back years ago, but Shane's just kind of like one of the boys. He dresses in the locker room with the guys. He comes and hangs out, and just easy to approach, full of ideas, dude. So it was, I was like, man, this is crazy. Like when you're attached to Shane McMahon or even Braun at the time, that you're getting like a main event kind of push storyline there.
Right. So now, who came to y'all with that creative to do this?
It was the writers. They came up to us and started talking about Shane was coming in to start building up a storyline with Braun to lead into WrestleMania 37 there in Tampa. And I think Elias may have spoken to Shane because he knew Shane kind of well, and kind of, was talking to him about us being kind of his little goons, his little whatever cronies you want to call it. And Shane loved the idea. He was like, man, that'd be great because we can use you guys when I run away. You guys take the heat for everything, which a lot of the times we were just bumping around for Braun. But then going into Mania, it was like using us to make the fans think that Shane was going to pull one over on him, and obviously it backfired for us.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's good stuff though. Like I said, when you're slated with a McMahon, you're in a featured spot. That's for sure. So
yeah, man. And then not only that, but we talked about like my SmackDown debut, my Raw debut, and then here I am. I'd always made this vow with myself because I had opportunities to go to WrestleMania growing up, as a fan, and I was always stubborn. I said, absolutely not. I won't go unless I'm on the card. And lo and behold, man, April 8th, 2021, I'm there at WrestleMania, bro. And it was amazing. I wish it would have been, because they split up in 2 days and limited the number of fans because of COVID during that time. But it was crazy just to be a part of that.
Yeah. You kind of had that idea, and I had that idea for a long time there. Whenever once I got in the business, I was like, if I'm not booked, I'm not going. I turned on my fan. You remember?
Yeah, stubborn
from on the mat. He's like, "No, Terry, I'm not going. If I'm not booked, I'm not going."
Yeah, I do remember that.
Oh, but I want you to be there. No, if I'm not booked, Terry. So that's kind of how I was too in a lot of a lot of guys be like, "Hey, we got tickets to go WWE over here," and I'm like, "The office ain't called me for an extra spot. I ain't going."
We're just stubborn old men, but luckily mine paid off and I got a Mania memory there. So it was pretty sweet. We got a chance, we got to bump off the side of the cage. And I remember somebody said, Bruce Pritchard or maybe somebody, they say, "Hey, be sure, you don't like cheese this bump. Like, we need you guys to look like you took a nasty fall." And I'm thinking, dude, this is WrestleMania. So what did, Chad do? He gets knocked off the cage and I just kind of flat back to the floor. And I was like, that was stupid.
Laying there trying to get your breath.
But it's Mania. Oh, yeah. But it's Mania, man. So I got that under my belt.
Yeah. That's very good. Well, then after that, we move on. You could tell in these matches, some of the ones early on, you guys against Jeff Hardy and Ricochet, or Jeff Hardy and Carlito, I believe.
Yeah.
And then, you progressed into working Orton and Riddle and New Day and AJ and Omos. And I mean, you guys are in the mix. So as you're going through this, how is your relationship building? Are you guys getting closer? Are you guys traveling together?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're definitely traveling together, man. It's one of those things we'd link up, ride together, room together, because we got a lot in common, our beliefs and stuff like that. I won't dive too much into, Elias's personal life, but, man, we connected well. When I was in Orlando, him and I, like I said, trained together. I'd stay at his place, and which was great because we had so much in common. We could come together and come up with these different ideas. And, he like I said, once again, he's smart when it comes to putting matches together, man. The guy's just a professional. So if something he knew, because he had been on Raw for many years before I came, he would go, "Hey, man, they're not going to let us do this," or "Let's do it this way because it's going to look better on TV for live TV." So he was teaching me in the long run when it came to stuff like that, dude. Just a good guy to travel with, positive. Him and I are just gym rats, and we're done with the arena. We're right to the hotel. And so we definitely had a traveling relationship, which was great.
Yeah, good. So you guys seemingly moving up the ranks. You're, like I said, working all of these matches, New Day, RK Bro, AJ and Omos, who are the tag team champions at that time. I don't want to jump too far to the end. So if there's anything that you would like to throw in about stuff that you guys were doing, one thing that I did, you mentioned some comedy stuff. I cracked up when I saw you guys with the tomatoes.
Yes, I was just thinking about that. It was so fun because the writers came to us with this stuff, and in my mind, I'm thinking, thank the Lord, man. Like, I'm tired of just standing there voiceless and faceless and emotionless. Like, you're giving me some character stuff. And I talked to some of the writers, and they was like, "Yeah, that's what I mean. We want to kind of dive into who you are." And I was like, "Well, I've done movies." I was like, I joke around a lot at home, and it's just who I am. So just let me in that role. So the tomato thing was great because some of these, like with AJ, man, his promos, the way he talks, and he's just naturally kind of goofy in a way when it comes to promos. Mm-hmm. It was hard not to crack up a few times. You mentioned Ron Truth,
Yes.
Luckily I'm one of those guys, like when I know the camera's on, it's very hard to get me to crack. And if I do, I know which way to turn my face so that, the camera's not going to catch me. But Ron was hard at times, man.
Yeah.
But it was that tomato one was great. That was one I think it was like a one taker maybe because it was live. I think we busted that one live. So we went over it a few times, but throwing tomatoes and just it was just, I was like, this is disgusting. I mean, but that one was a lot of fun. But it was nice to finally get out of that rut of just Jaxson Ryker who didn't say anything.
Right. So you guys headed toward you guys run through some matches and you end up getting a shot at AJ. Well, actually, during this time, you guys are going back and forth, having singles matches with a lot of these guys in between the tag matches too. you have a good one on Raw with AJ, and then you end up in a tag team title match with you and Elias against AJ and Omos. Now, had they given you any idea beforehand, hey, this is going to be long term, we think we're going to put the titles on you? What, is there anything like that, or you still just kind of going in
once again
shooting from the hip?
No, once again, throwing darts at a dartboard in WWE sometimes, man. Like, we never got the word of, hey, we're going to put the titles on you. But every single week we're having tag matches with New Day, AJ, those guys, Orton and Riddle. We'd get to the back and Vince was like, you guys look great together. Like, this is going to be good for you guys, blah, blah, blah. So we're thinking, all right, cool. Like, we're probably going to go to the pay-per-view and work with New Day, which we thought we were going to. Because funny thing is, Elias and I are like, well, it looks like we might win the tag titles, which would be great. It was on a Friday before we were to fly out Saturday for pay-per-view. We get a call or a text from one of the writers who dealt with us and say, hey, can we get all three of us on a call? We're like, yeah, absolutely. We get on there and we're thinking, man, we're going to go in Sunday and win the tag titles. It's going to be fun. And he goes, well, guys, listen, we're going to bring you guys in for TV, but we're not going to do the pay-per-view. We'll have you at the pay-per-view in case you need you. But Monday, we're going to do a split with you guys. And we're like you just hear Elias just starts laughing. He goes, what? And me, I'm like, what's going on right now? Because for, 2 months, Vince is praising us. Like, hey, you guys get some matching stuff. You guys look great together. Like, I'm just like, dude, this is nuts. So Elias and I get off the phone with the writer and call one another. And we're like, so weird. And I was like, yeah, it's very weird. I don't know. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall of the meeting that said, we're just going to split these two guys up. And maybe it was Vince looking at me as like, okay, maybe we can push him as a new baby face.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it was not far after that where we had a meeting. I had a one-on-one meeting with Vince about cutting my hair and all that stuff. But yeah, man, we were all hyped up thinking we were going to get the tag titles and continue this run because, dude, we really were. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but we were having some really good tag matches, like physical tag matches with New Day. They were happy with the run. We were happy with what was going on. Riddle and RKO, or Randy Orton, was super awesome to work with. But once again, throwing darts at a dartboard, instead of letting that run its course and then slowly doing like a turn, it was like, oh, the next week we're working Omos and AJ. And it's like, Elias, you're going to just basically drop off the ring apron when Ryker tries to tag, and he's going to look at you. But then when he turns around, big old Omos is going to be there just to clobber him. So,
yeah,
which gave me some, luckily we did it that way instead of just some random, like, this week we're a team, next week, who cares? There was some fuel there for me to be able to come in hot with Elias and have some aggression.
Yeah. So you guys go to this match, and like you said, it's just, hey, toward the end, Elias just walks off and leaves you to get destroyed. And had they given you, once again, dartboard, but had they given you direction of life after you and Elias? Had they said, hey, we're going to put you guys in this big story and then we're going here? Or is it just, once again, we're throwing darts?
Well, they did say that, once they told us about the split with Elias, that we were going to, Elias and I would do a lengthy, is the word I remember, a lengthy feud to where we do some kind of blow off. And that lengthy feud, I think, was 3 matches. So that wasn't lengthy at all. But that we did have direction on. We didn't know that we're going into a Symphony of Destruction match until so we did the strap match. We did a bunch of brawls, and it was a lot of fun, man. But after that, there was nothing. It was like, all right, well, we're going to, Ryker, work on you being a baby face, start kind of feeding you different heels, and then go from there. But the Elias thing, I thought, man, we could have milked that for so long. But we didn't. It was 3 or 4 weeks, because that happened in, I guess, the beginning of June, and then July is when we did our first live TV back in Dallas, Texas. It was like July 19th or the 20th or something like that. So,
and that was the Symphony of Destruction match, which you guys, once Elias leaves you, I want to say something real quick because I was thinking about it a minute ago. You mentioned it a couple of different times, and I know that we had several times on our recording schedule where when you were still with WWE, the travel for those, just some little insight for guys wanting to go there, not discouraging anybody from going there, but just saying,
Right.
hey, you might want to expect this, at least if it's still like that today, which I'm sure that it is. But there were several times, hey, usually a lot of times you would fly into Tampa and get to the hotel and we would record on Sunday evenings while you were still there. And then, once you guys went back to live or whatever, stuff started changing. But a lot of times it was, they would send you that text like the day before and say, hey, we're flying you to the pay-per-view. And you're like, I'm not even on the thing. What am I supposed to be doing?
And I never was.
And you'd be like,
there.
Yeah, you'd be like, okay, we'll have to do like Tuesday when I get home or something. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah.
But I mean, that happens quite a bit. You've mentioned 2 or 3 times just in this episode that it happened with you throughout this time period.
Oh man, many times. Yeah, that's the thing. You just gotta be on the road, ready to go at all times. I mean, my gear bag was always packed. Luckily, I knew at that time there was no like you're leaving home on a Sunday morning or a Saturday night, not getting back till Thursday. There was no house shows. So it was simple just to throw some stuff in a bag and be ready all the time. But it was frustrating when you get to a pay-per-view thinking, well, maybe I'll do something. But then you get there and it's like, I'm just going to hold catering chair down and watch the show. So, yeah, get ready for that. I mean, you with the dream and with chasing the professional wrestling dream comes the waiting. And I always say the Marine Corps taught me to do that. There was a lot of 15-hour days in the Marine Corps where we would sit for 5 hours just waiting to be told, okay, this is what we're doing for the day, which sounds crazy. But when you're building up for a deployment or something, that's really how it is. It's like you don't know when you're going to get off. So it built me up for wrestling.
Right. So in our last few minutes here, you and Elias, you go through weeks of Raw where, you do a brawl and he walks out. I think you win by count out on one. And then there's a strap match where you guys are linked together, can't get away from each other. And then, I think there's a tag match where you and Ron Killings against Elias and
who was it there
in that one?
Oh man, I'm brain dead on that one.
I do remember the tag match.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have had that.
Yeah, it's all good. That was a fun man. Anyway, go ahead. I don't want to jump too far.
But then the Symphony of Destruction match, which, you text me that night and you'd kind of given me an idea because at that time, just to let the cat out of the bag, we wasn't watching too much. You would text and say, hey, this is the segment I'm going on around 9 or whatever. And you told me kind of your time slot. And I'm like, wow, they're giving you guys time to work a story. And so, that was really good. That match was a really solid match. And it looked like, even though they had split you guys up, that both of you were going to come out of that for the better.
Sure. No, and we were in I think it's called, what we called it, a rollover spot, I want to say, where, you got the hours from 8 to 9 that roll over to 9 o'clock and then 9 that rolls over to 10. And we were in that 9 to 10 o'clock rollover time, which is always good because they say that a lot of people tune in on those rollover times. So, man, and really it was first match in a while where we had free game to basically do whatever we want to. I remember us going through the arena that night. They always had a prop area. And we were like, can we use this? And they're like, yeah, you use anything you want to. And obviously the big baby grand piano that we decided to pull out there, I mean, that thing wasn't going to break, but, it was just really cool for us to be able to have ideas, the suplex off the top to the floor. I mean, I'll give Shane Helms credit for that. That was just an idea. He kind of pitched a few to Vince. We had pitched a few to Shane to pitch to Vince. And Shane was, Vince loved the suplex to the floor because there was just a moment there where, as I snatched him on the second rope when we were about to go over, I just kind of paused and looked to the people, and you can actually see, and I could feel it like the roar coming. And I was like, oh man. Yeah. And, but a lot of stuff in that match hurt. We had I think we had maybe 12 minutes, 13 minutes, something total, which is a lot of TV time.
Right.
And, so we took it all, man. And we just, the thing that hurt the worst, I tell everybody, they always say, what hurt the worst? The suplex to the floor. I was like, that knocked the breath out of us.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that hurt the worst, bro, was the cello shot to my back. You and I had talked about it. It was because that thing, a guitar, like an acoustic guitar, they can hollow out, take the guts out. It's, it's going to hurt, but it's going to bust. This cello, if you know much about a cello, it's got like a round back. So it kind of rounds out like a moon shape. Mm-hmm. Dude, when he hit me, it hit my left kind of like rhomboid area. So my shoulder blade, and just instantly seized up. And I remember it shot down into my leg and into my neck. And I'm thinking, I'm just laying on the ground going, man, I got to take one more of these. And, he was easy on me, but that thing hurt so bad. I couldn't lift my arm for about 2 days. But it was all worth it. We come out of that match thinking, man, I'm being built. This is great. Like, this really went off well. Elias had already been built. I mean, he, like, it was a match where he put me over to help establish this new guy.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful to him for that. And it's nice to know that, like, I had a live match on Raw for the first live TV back since, the COVID mess in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I'm a part of that history. It was great to be in front of people. And so I can hang that on my belt. But after that, we know that I just kind of did main event matches and job matches on Raw, and just strange, man.
Yeah. We'll talk about that some other time. I know that there's a lot of questions about what was the plan after Elias. We'll get into that later on, but we're going to wrap this one up, man. I think it's been a good episode, a lot of meat in this one that a lot of pet fans will like hearing about. You got anything before we wrap it up?
I don't, man. I just want to thank everybody for supporting my career. Like, I mean, it's not over. Obviously, we know here in 2023, I'm going to kind of finish up my career doing some shows. But just like I said, it's just cool to sit back and go. Somebody said it the other day, Terry Skaggs, man, he actually sent me a voice memo and was just saying, man, I was just sitting in prayer and just thinking about you. And, like, God's really allowed you to do some cool stuff in life. And I'm like, you know what, you're right, man. Like, we talked last week about, I watched the first SmackDown when I was a kid.
Yeah. I
made it to SmackDown. I remember watching Raw in the Attitude Era, and I made it to Raw. That was my ultimate goal. I worked beside Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Sting, and dude, the names go on. And I'm not boasting, but it's one of those things where I sit back sometime and go, man, if I don't have another match ever, dude, I've lived my dream, and God's given me the most amazing platform to be able to share his glory. Basically, it's for his glory. And I've realized that. So I'm just very thankful for those who supported me, and just family, friends, everybody, fans. So that's it, man.
That's great. And like you said, there's more to come. And man, I'm just excited about what we're doing here on the podcast. We've been getting a lot of great feedback. A lot of people saying, hey, it's kind of exciting to hear you guys talk about wrestling again. And a lot of the people, they want to know your thoughts. They want to know stuff from the inside, from where you've been, and me as well, but not on a big a scale as for so long. So anyway, but they want to know more of the inside stuff. And so we enjoy talking about it, but we enjoy getting all of the feedback, and everybody sending their questions, everybody just really enjoying what we're doing. So we're thankful for all of you guys. Be sure to share the Wrestling for the Faith podcast with everybody. Let everybody know about it. If you have questions, you can email them to wrestlingforthefaith@gmail.com, or I'm going to put this one out there. Use the hashtag AskWFF on social media. So if you have questions for us to talk about, or topics for us to talk about here on the podcast, wrestlingforthefaith@gmail.com, or social media hashtag AskWFF. Nice. Guys, we love you. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to Wrestling for the Faith. Don't forget to follow Casey Cage on Twitter @RealCaseyCage. Follow Chad Lale on Twitter @CWLale_Gunner. And follow the show at Facebook.com/Wrestling for the Faith.